Welcome. We're looking at a YouTube transcript submitted to us, reacting very strongly to Candace Owens' theories about Charlie Kirk's alleged murder investigation.
Right. A really charged piece. It covers quite a bit. The wall message, the Egyptian military angle, TPUSA betrayal, and then that pivot to Kirk maybe being alive.
Exactly. So let's dive into how this critique can be sharp, moving beyond just the initial outrage.
Okay.
First off, the passion is really clear. You feel the creator's visceral reaction to Owens' claim, especially about Kirk's faith and how speculative it all is.
That energy definitely powers the piece, no doubt. And in this kind of media space, that matters. But I do wonder if it's being used as effectively as it could be.
What do you mean?
Well, the material leans so heavily on very judgmental language, and I think that ultimately weakens its intellectual punch. Personal attacks, the sort of amateur diagnoses. It shifts the spotlight away from the actual flaws in Owens' own arguments.
Which are pretty contradictory, right?
Absolutely. She starts claiming, he was taken out by something much bigger, maybe foreign agents, and then suddenly pivots to saying TPUSA is just hiding him.
Huh.
The weakness here is that the critique is doing all the emotional heavy lifting for the viewer, instead of just laying out those contradictory facts and letting them speak for themselves.
Okay, so the creator's own strong emotion is maybe clouding the argument, getting in the way of just dissecting the claim.
I think so. It pushes them towards attacking the person, not the substance. If they pull back on the insults, they could focus differently.
So what's the suggestion then? How do they fix that?
The key is to adopt a more, let's say, analytically detached tone. Skeptical, yes, but constructive. Let the internal contradictions in what Owens says create the critical impact.
Let the absurdity reveal itself.
Exactly. The goal isn't to have the host yell, "She's crazy." It's to present the evidence so the viewer thinks, wait, that doesn't make any sense.
Can you give a concrete example of how they might do that?
Sure. So instead of saying something like, "You're missing like a massive chasm of other thoughts," which is pretty vague,
Right.
they could dedicate a specific segment to just juxtaposing the claims. Put the high-level foreign assassination theory right next to the TPUSA is hiding him in a bunker theory.
Side by side.
Yeah, just show the pivot from death to hiding. That contrast is precise, it's factual, and frankly, it's much more devastating to her credibility than calling her a dingbat.
It lets the audience connect the dot, makes the critique feel more solid.
Much more solid.
More persuasive. I can see how that boosts credibility. It shifts from just opinion to like forensic analysis of her own words. But, isn't there a risk? Doesn't this lose some of that raw energy, the political heat that maybe drew the audience in?
That's a fair point. It's definitely a strategic choice. You might trade some of that immediate, maybe sensationalist heat for more long-term authority.
Okay.
People might come for the drama, sure, but they'll stay if they feel they're getting real insight. And honestly, presenting those wildly conflicting theories back to back, that is dramatic in itself.
Because the claims themselves are so out there.
Exactly. You keep the inherent drama of the content, but deliver the critique with more intellectual rigor. It's about being sharp, not just loud.
Okay, that makes sense. A strategic balance. Let's shift gears then to the structure, specifically around defending TPUSA. The material does argue against Owens, saying TPUSA lacks emotion or drive on this.
It does make that counter-argument, which is good. It identifies the logical reason for their public silence.
But
It's sort of structurally buried. The most powerful, logical defense for Turning Point USA gets lost in the general outrage instead of leading the charge.
what defense is that, specifically?
The explanation that TPUSA has, quite reasonably, left it up to the police. And crucially, that they're likely operating under some kind of legal restriction, maybe even a gag order.
Ah, right.
That point is mentioned, but it feels defensive, and it comes late. By not putting that factual, procedural reason right up front, the critique kind of lets Owens' narrative that TPUSA is hiding Charlie Kirk somewhere get the first word unchallenged.
So it's like the creators reacting to Owens' frame instead of setting their own. They're playing defense with the facts instead of offense.
That's a great way to put it. Exactly. They need to structure the whole rebuttal around that legal or procedural reality. Use the known constraints, the police investigation, the likelihood of confidentiality as the authoritative reason for TPUSA's approach.
So explain why their public reaction is actually the logical one.
Yes, that immediately positions the creator as someone with insight, not just anger. It shifts the whole conversation from, why aren't they emotional enough, to, this is how serious investigations are handled professionally.
Okay, so how would that look practical?
Well, make it actionable. They could start that segment by directly addressing the unnatural reaction claim, then immediately introduce the idea. Look, public statements right now could actually jeopardize the case, or mention the potential gag order.
Frame the silence as competence.
Right. Explain that in a high-stakes investigation, professional silence is often the required logical response. Make that the central counter-narrative. The absence of noisy updates is the evidence of a serious process underway.
That framing makes Owens' demands seem, ignorant of how these things actually work rather than just crazy. But isn't that tough? I mean, this creator's style is sensationalist. You're asking them to focus on potentially dry procedure?
It is a shift, no doubt. Resisting the urge to just mirror the sensationalism is hard when the topic is so heated.
Yeah.
But the payoff, I think, is making the critique a source of actual clarity, of authority in the middle of all the noise. Imagine them saying something like, while Owens demands a public spectacle, the reality of a serious investigation requires professional quiet. Here's why TPUSA's silence isn't conspiracy, it's competent.
That lands differently, much stronger.
It's structurally powerful. It reframes everything.
Okay, that reframing makes a lot of sense, and it connects directly to the last main point, the whole so what question. The creator mentioned getting an unbelievable amount of emails from people who really believe Kirk is still alive.
Yes, that detail about the emails, honestly, that might be the most important piece of information in the whole submission.
Why's that?
Because the critique totally misses a chance for deeper analysis there. It focuses too much on just saying Owens is making it up, instead of asking why these beliefs are catching on. The material spots the audience believing the conspiracy, which is huge, but it doesn't connect that belief back to the information vacuum we were just talking about.
So it stops at calling Owens and her followers crazy.
Right. And it needs to go further. It needs to offer some context about, media literacy, how information gaps get filled, maybe even the psychology behind conspiracy thinking. The real so what here isn't just about one commentator. It's about how these narratives take hold in our current media environment.
So the suggestion isn't just be calmer, it's bigger. Are you suggesting they should shift the whole focus away from just analyzing Owens' claims and towards analyzing the audience's susceptibility to these kinds of stories, especially when official channels go quiet?
Absolutely. That's the creative pivot. That's what can make this video truly insightful, not just reactive.
It moves it from being just another reaction video to something more like media criticism?
Exactly. A piece of contemporary media criticism using this specific controversy as a case study.
Okay, let me push back slightly here. If they pivot that hard towards media theory and audience psychology, do they risk losing their core audience, the ones who tuned in for the political fight, the direct rebuttal of Owen? Might that feel too academic?
It's a valid concern, but the analysis doesn't have to sound academic. It needs to be insightful, grounded in the actual examples. They can still use the wild claims, the Egyptian military, whatever, as the entry point.
So use the specifics to illustrate the general mechanism.
Precisely. Like, look at how the lack of verified info, which is necessary, right, because of the investigation, the probable gag order, immediately gets filled by the most dramatic theory possible.
The vacuum.
Yeah. The human brain hates an information vacuum. So when the official word is silence, legally required silence, people latch onto the highest stakes explanation.
Instead of the mundane one?
Right. It explains why someone might jump to Tucker Carlson's interview led to an assassination order, or it was the Egyptian, instead of the much more likely but boring reality. The police are investigating, and the lawyer said zip it. Analyzing that mechanism, how the necessary silence ironically breeds the spectacle that adds huge value. It elevates the video beyond just outrage into explaining why these things happen. It speaks to the allure of the grand conspiracy over just procedure.
Okay. I see that. It makes the video much more significant in the long run. It uses the specific drama to shed light on a broader pattern in how we consume information today.
Exactly. It satisfies the need for the immediate rebuttal, but also offers something deeper about how information gets twisted, especially in these high-profile, emotionally charged cases.
It's strengthening the whole foundation, not just trimming the edges.
Well put. The audience is clearly invested. They deserve an analysis that goes beyond name-calling and actually helps them understand why these sensational narratives gain so much traction.
Okay, so to wrap up, the material definitely captures the outrage effective, and the core facts needed for a strong rebuttal are there, but it could be much stronger with sort of 3 key shifts.
Sounds right.
First, adjust the tone. Move away from the personal attacks towards a more forensic look at the contradictions in Owens' own statements.
Let the facts be the weapon, not the insults, yeah.
Second, restructure the argument about TPUSA. Put that legal reality, the police investigation, the probable gag order right up front as the authoritative reason for their silence.
Use that procedural reality as the backbone. It explains our actions logically.
And finally, deepen the analysis. Move beyond just debunking Owens to explore why these kinds of conspiracy theories flourish in an information vacuum. Analyze the audience susceptibility.
Turn it into a broader commentary on media consumption in these situations. That's the originality angle.
Makes sense. Focus on letting the facts and the procedural realities dismantle the narrative. Use the constraints of the investigation to explain TPUSA's silence authoritatively.
Exactly. That elevates the creator from just reacting to actually analyzing the situation. It's a much stronger position. We'd definitely be interested in taking another look if these elements are refined in a future draft.
Great. We look forward to seeing that next version. Until then, keep working on it.